Injecting the confidence of hope within your life means that you're comfortable with the notion of your message having value in order to impact people and to provide them with the necessary fulfillment they need to persevere, to demand the best of prosperity, and formulating the mindset to maximize the potential of your opportunities and ability to make a difference in the lives of people within your inner circle and those who are not. Life is about an abundance of opportunity to define your moment of difference and elevate your level of confidence by propelling the notion of abundance forward. You know, in order to succeed in life, we all have to engage in the melting pot, which is society, and throw our level of expertise into the field so that others can also learn, grow, and prosper. No one knows this better than Charlsey Childers. As a self-worth and confidence coach, she stands behind big dreamers to help them navigate their doubts to ensure that they live a life of abundance, joy, happiness, and fulfillment. Childress believes that we all have the tools of self-confidence in order to win at the game of life. She sprinkles these lessons of wisdom and knowledge in her podcast, which is entitled Seeking Your Inner Brilliance, a podcast dedicated to helping big dreamers and people see who they are rather than being shaped into the person that others want you to be. I have to tell you, I had the time of my life chatting with Childress. So without further delay, because I don't want to be selfish and hold this knowledge back, she had to share any longer. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Charlsey, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to talk to you about building confidence and living a fulfilling life. Great to see you, and happy Friday to you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. It is so great to be here, and happy Friday to you as well.
Absolutely, and just before we dive into it, tell me, what's the best part of reaching Friday every week for you? What's the best part of feeling as if you've had a successful and productive week? I'm fascinated to get your answer.
I love your question. And to be honest with you, for a long time, I lived for Fridays. I so looked forward to Fridays. And then I had a revelation that why can't everybody feel, or why can't every day feel like a Friday or a Saturday? And so that's really what started my journey of discovering, what am I here for? What am I here to do? What is my purpose? What can I have an amazing life outside of the one that I was living for Fridays? Can I really experience that excitement each and every day? So that's really important to me, is whether it's Monday, Sunday, Friday, whatever it is, that it's all as amazing as it can possibly be.
Yeah, we only have one life to live, so we might as well maximize every day, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. No, I know that, self worth, rather, and confidence are two traits that can mean a wide number of things to different people. So I wonder if you could give me sort of your definition as we start our conversation on what gives you the most sense of importance and piece of empowerment for yourself personally. I'm fascinated.
Yeah, that's a great question, Kevin. And for me, really diving into and harnessing my self worth has changed my life because part of when I was living for Fridays, part of that was that I was also going from one action to another. I was never truly experiencing satisfaction. I was just going through the motions, if you will. And then I started encountering some insecurities that I wasn't really aware of. And I had this real inner war going on with myself. And so diving into my own work of self worth and confidence and applying my master's on myself, just this whole journey that which started 7 years ago, it's really changed my life. And to now being someone who is so attuned to I am, I deeply, deeply know who I am to my core. I fully believe that I am enough as I am. And there's just so much more aliveness and freedom and alignment in my life. So to me, it goes beyond, empowering the self. It goes into cultivating that inner knowingness that you are enough, reconnecting to your inherent power, really seeing who you really are, understanding the inner workings, whether it be thoughts, feelings, and our belief systems, and then learning how to use all of those pieces to work for us rather than against us.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I have to tell you, I think the work that you do is fascinating to help people sort of navigate what their big dreams are in life and get rid of navigating their doubts. And tell me about helping people live to the fullest heights of their potential because I think it's fascinating work. So tell me more about it.
Thank you so much for that acknowledgement. I completely agree with you, not only from my personal experience, but also my passion and my calling, that this work is so transformative. We are not taught to deal with our thoughts and our feelings and use them as tools rather than threats. We aren't taught what does it mean to become aware? What does that even look like? Is that just something that we see on Pinterest? And so really diving into one's self-worth and discovering themselves, really just connecting with who they are. It's going within, and it along the way you discover things about yourself. Maybe it's passions, maybe it's strengths, and it's just this beautiful unraveling of what we're here to do and who we are. And so that fully equips us to be able to live our life to the fullest and reach our fullest potential.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as I shared with you earlier, one of my missions in life is to help people realize the power of inclusion and acceptance of all people. So tell me, what is your definition of inclusion and how do you think we can get more people to sort of diversify their definition of that word?
Oh my gosh, Kevin, that is such a beautiful question. I literally have chills right now since you asked that. And really, what it boils down to is it goes back to the universal law of oneness, of divine oneness, and how we are all intricately connected to each other. Now, society does not echo that in any way. We are separated into different grades, different socioeconomic classes, whether we have disabilities or no disabilities or mental disabilities and physical disabilities. Let's not even get into the Republicans and Democrats. And so there's so much separation and division, not all of it, quote unquote, negative, right? Because, like in school, when we are divided into grades. that sort of thing. But it doesn't reinforce the natural law of the universe that we are connected. And so when it comes back to inclusion, it's more about seeing each other for who we are on the inside and knowing that we're connected. There's a higher purpose here, a higher power, a higher mission going on rather than the divisiveness and separateness. And so the inclusion, I love all of the efforts. I love how you're speaking, to this. And at the end of the day, it's really getting back to something that existed way before we were even here. So it's diversity and inclusion, and embracing that isn't something new, but somehow along the way, we can go back to, even slavery, or even, there are so many instances throughout our history that are extreme examples of this type of separation that I'm referring to. And so it's more so about getting back into alignment with love and who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And just building on that point, I'll follow up with this. One of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast was I looked at the world and I said to myself, there has to be more that brings us together instead of creating divisions that make us feel as that we have to sort of be in a territorial mindset all the time. So I'm curious to ask you about divisions that are fracturing us, and what do you think is the key to bringing us sort of closer to the center of the commitment to compromise and understand?
Oh, Kevin, you just set that up so beautifully, so beautifully, because it's all about focusing on ourselves and feeling a lot of the separation that we see in this world and this divisiveness. It is a reflection of the separation that we feel inside of ourselves by not knowing who we truly are. We have thoughts that are in support of where we're going, thoughts that are not in support of. We have this, 1 minute we can be in alignment with ourselves and feeling quote unquote positive feelings. And then the next minute we can feel quote unquote negative feelings, right? And so it's feeling separate, feeling torn within ourselves. And so when we can get back to focusing more on the internal than the external, then that is what allows us to, some people refer to it as healing. I don't see it that way. It's just more of a focusing. As we focus on ourselves, we are naturally, it's so within, so without. It's the law of correspondence. And so as we focus on ourselves and feel whole and complete inside of ourselves, then our world in front of us is going to reflect that. And if we can all collectively do that, then naturally the world will sync up to it.
Yeah, and I know for you personally, 2017 was a transformational year. So I wonder if you can go back to that time in your life and why it was so important and impactful in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2017, just like the separation within that I was just talking about, in 2017, that separation was really highlighted. It was really prominent. I came to a point where, well, let me preface by saying that from the time I was younger, I had a path paved out for myself. More so, I paved the path out for myself, and my mom did. So it was a joint venture and effort into. I was set to go to college, get married, go to grad school, have kids, buy the house, the traditional forms, work in corporate forever and ever. I'm not the only one who was groomed, if you will, for that path. And so that's the path that I set on. I got my master's. I had all of the things. I was 7 years into building my corporate career. And after having my second son and just realizing how important life is as a mom, that's when I felt the call for more. for more impact, for more happiness, for more satisfaction and fulfillment, for more impact and meaning in my life. And so once again, this inner war within myself of I was doing good according to societal standards. I was doing all of the things, checking all of the boxes, but inside of myself, I was literally deteriorating inside and I didn't know what to do. And being called to leave my corporate career, it brought up a lot of insecurities within myself that I thought I hadn't experienced before. For example, I thought that I couldn't leave my corporate career because I wouldn't be good at anything else. And really, I had been subconsciously living in a safe zone all my life to where these insecurities were at bay. And I didn't really, there was never a time that I had to deal with them. And so in 2017, when I was struggling in silence and pretending and faking it till I make it, that's really when I dove in deeper. I applied my master's in psychology on myself to discover why I didn't feel good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And just building on that point, I'm fascinated to ask you, what do you think it means to live a life with compassion and urgency? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. So before I answer, I want to turn it around to you because that is a super interesting question, and compassionate urgency can mean different things to different people. So, what does it mean, or what does it look like to you?
For me, helping people maximize the fullest heights of their potential, as I told you before, and using my personal story of resilience, I'll tell you that I actually found out at 9 years old that I wouldn't be able to walk for the rest of my life without assistance because of the severity of my CP. So living a life with compassionate urgency means that I try to build what I call bridges of unity and allow people to be seen, heard, and respected, and sort of build an equitable future for everyone, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much for going into that and elaborating on that. And so, based on what you're saying, I really see two different things here, that compassion, 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 and as much compassion and grace as we can not only give ourselves, but extend to other people. That's where the urgency comes from because this world needs it. We need it. And so if we can just focus on compassion, 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 love, 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 and then recognize that there is a great need for it, then that's where the urgency comes from.
Yeah, and for you, being a mom, I'm curious how important is it to sort of educate and empower your kids to really embrace the concept of discovery? How important is that for you as a mom?
Let's see. Let me clarify your question. So, as a mom, how important is it for me to teach my kids about self-discovery and awareness? Is that your question?
Yeah, and claiming sort of their independence. Yeah.
For me, it has become through my own doing my own inner work. It has become the thing that I base my parenting off of. For instance, and I think it'll be best explained in this example from earlier today, my daughter and I I was on the way to dropping her off at summer camp, and we got into the conversation about if somebody says something mean to us, and her instance was if somebody says that they don't like your hair, then recognizing in that moment that if somebody says, I don't like your hair, we have a choice. We have a choice in, first of all, are we going to believe them? Are we going to accept that as truth? And then also, how are we going to react, or are we going to respond to them in that way? And so it just created this beautiful conversation between us of talking about, what do we do in those moments? How do we deal with negative comments or when people say negative things to us? We also went into how hurt people. And we talked about how people on social media, some of them thrive off of saying negative comments to each other. And so learning how to deal with all of that. And because of my self-awareness, because I am rooted in self-love, because of all of these things, now that puts me in the position to do that for her, so that she essentially starts at an earlier age. And so now that she's 8 and she's living in this environment of feeling her feelings and knowing that she doesn't have to react when she feels angry, and that just because you're angry doesn't mean that you have to slam doors, different things like that. I firmly feel like that she is going to be a much better individual and adult as she grows up, because those are her roots.
Yeah, absolutely. And Charlsey, tell me, I have a two-part question for you. I'm curious to note your response to how we sort of create an environment where we can experience sustainable success. And I'm also curious to ask you if you're a believer in daily affirmations and how important those are to you.
I get this question asked quite often.
I figured as much. Yeah.
So let me tackle sustainable success, and then I will tackle daily affirmations. They kind of relate to each other. So
that's why I combine the questions.
Oh my goodness. So first of all, sustainable success, at the end of the day, it has to be the measurement of success. It has to be an internal thing, because if we are, which a lot of high achievers, big dreamers, visionaries, the people that who I work with, when we have external measurements of success, whether it be 6 figures or speaking around the country or starting a podcast or having 10,000 Instagram followers, whatever the external things are, when we have that as our form of measurement, then it becomes an ever-evolving, fleeting target, and we never truly feel the satisfaction that we're looking for. So if we can kind of do the counterintuitive thing, or the counter to what we're taught, and go within, and for me, success is alignment, success is flow, success is ease and satisfaction and effortlessness, just like this conversation with you. This is success right now. And so I have chill bumps right now. And so then at that point, I can experience this at any time. I'm not reliant or dependent on a certain exterior measurement in order to feel all of those things. So that is part of sustainable success. And then going into your affirmations, when we look inside of ourselves. So a lot of people use affirmations as something to get to. So as far as success, some people will say the affirmation of, I am a millionaire. I am a millionaire. I want to, make $1 million, or whatever it may be. And so it becomes this place of where they have to get to, almost like an arrival of getting somewhere. When really, when we go within, when we build this beautiful, solid foundation inside of ourselves, then affirmations, they naturally come from this place of overflow. And so when we know we are enough, then we just naturally say to ourselves, and I say this to myself, I am always divinely supported and guided. Things always work out for me, whether I see it or feel it. I am fully supported here. I cannot fail. I am always winning no matter what. And so it just becomes this effortless overflow. So it's not a thing of, oh, I have to sit down for 10 minutes a day and say my affirmations. Or if I don't say my affirmations every morning, then I'm going to be wrong for doing that. It just happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for myself personally, and one of the reasons I was so excited to talk to you today was I truly believe that life is an opportunity for all of us to create what I call our defining moments of difference and being our own authors of our own stories of leading by example. So I'm wondering if you would agree with that sentiment. And what do you think it means to discover your defining moment of difference?
Yeah, absolutely. I fully receive that question. And so I want to, first of all, what are the defining moments of difference that you're talking about here? What does that look like for you?
For me, a defining moment of difference, at the end of my biography, it says, the most satisfaction I get isn't from personal achievement. It's from seeing the smiles on the faces of people that I'm able to impact. So for me, a defining moment of difference is impacting people because I think when you pay it forward to others, then the rewards that you get personally will multiply. So for me, it's about defining my moment of impact, which is my defining moment of difference.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what I'm hearing here is that that's an internal measurement of success. Am I fulfilling on my calling? Am I doing the things, in your case, speaking, hosting this awesome podcast, that sort of thing? Am I doing the things that I'm here to do? And so that's a beautiful defining moment of difference. It goes back to that internal definition of success, because right now, you talking to me, that this is a defining moment. When you travel this weekend to go speak, that's also a defining moment, even though you're going to be speaking to more than one person. So they're both defining moments, so you cannot lose in that case.
Yeah, absolutely. And for you personally, I'm fascinated. You seem to be a relentlessly positive person. So I'm curious to ask you, how do you keep your circle of hope the widest, and why do you keep such an optimistic outlook? What has you most optimistic about the future of your life and society at large?
First of all, Kevin, thank you so much for that acknowledgement right there on my positive, bubbly. I really love that. Thank you so much. And for me, it goes back just like with affirmations. I do not believe in this positive or negative thing, or optimism or pessimism, so to speak. William Shakespeare says that nothing is good or bad. Our mind is what makes it so. And so, like with affirmations, for a lot of people, being positive, saying positive things, saying uplifting things, listening to positive things on TV or on the radio, it comes from a place of, I have to do this in order to be this. I have to say this. I have to think this. I can't think negative thoughts. I can't have a down day and be pessimistic. I'm not allowed to do that. That sort of thing. And really what that is doing is it's building and perpetuating this inner resistance that we feel inside. And so when we can train ourselves to see the contrast, quote unquote, negative feelings, when we can see the contrast as in support of who we are, just like positive feelings are, and we can really get to this place of mastering the inner objectivity and neutrality, then we love who we are. We appreciate who we are, whether it's feeling quote unquote positive or quote unquote negative. And so then a positive, a high energy, a bubbly, whatever it is, your natural energy just comes out. And so the optimism, the hope, it's a byproduct of what's going on inside.
Yeah, and just to that point, you must be the life of a party every time you go into a room, right?
Yes, I tend to be an influencer of energy when I go into a room. As I tell my kids, we bring the sunshine. We are here to bring the sunshine. That is our power. We are not here to look to somebody else or be reliant on certain music playing in a party in order for us to feel good. We feel good first, we bring it into whatever situation we're in, and then there's just magic.
You know, Charles, it's interesting you bring that up because every morning when I get up, I tell myself the only level of expectations that I have to meet on my own because I firmly believe if you don't have a personal level of expectation, it's hard to reach anybody else's, isn't it?
Kevin, that is so, so good. So for me, I view this as standards rather than expectations. I have a standard for how I'm going to feel every day about my life, about myself, about my career, about my kids. I have a standard in which I show up every day. I have a standard in which I talk to myself, I talk to my husband, things like that. And so what are our standards that we are allowing for ourselves? Because I'm sure you've experienced this, and I know you call them expectations, but the higher standard we have for ourselves, we naturally rise to that occasion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you're the host of your own podcast called Seeing Your Inner Brilliance. So tell me all about the show and what it's all about.
I am a host of my own podcast that is called Seeing Your Inner Brilliance. And the premise behind it is helping big dreamers and high achievers truly see themselves in order to be themselves and then bring the fullness of who they are to their dreams. Because so many of us, myself included, there we are covered up by so many lies and it's clouding our vision. We can't see who we really are because we have the natural hardwiring of our mind. There are unmet expectations in our lives. We have core wounds and internalizations. We have people in our lives who have told us that we'll never amount to anything or that we can't do it. We have so much proof around us for why we can't be and why we can't do what we want to do. And so for me, when it comes to seeing your inner brilliance, my focus is to help the big dreamers and high achievers truly see themselves for who they are. So then it empowers them and equips them to be themselves and bring the fullness of who they are to what they're doing.
Yeah, I translate that into if you don't love your if you don't love yourself, it's hard to love anybody else, right?
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, and I'm gonna end our conversation this way because I want to. It's the end of the week, and I want to end on a positive note. And so I am a firm believer that we all have our own life compass, and it's incumbent upon all of us to point it in the direction that we want to go. So I'm gonna end on a two-part question about the importance of sort of interjecting joy in life wherever we go, and your thoughts there. And when you think of your own personal and professional legacy, how do you want that to be defined?
Such great question. So, first of all, let me ask you a clarifying question of when it comes to interjecting joy, what might that look like in your eyes?
You know, interjecting joy in my mind means if even if we don't agree with people, and even if we disagree with a certain premise, whether it be what we had for breakfast or how we live our life, I believe that everyone deserves a chance to be given a platform to be heard. You know, I originally went to college to become a sports reporter, and one of the reasons I wanted to do that was because I couldn't play sports because of the my disability. But one of the reasons I'm so positive, you know, I always tell myself that it takes a lot more energy to be discouraging than it does to be positive. So we have a sort of a edict or a creed in our family that we look to sort of the lens of positive momentum and injecting positive momentum into other people's life because it's our family's belief and my personal belief that if you inject positivity into other people, the rewards that you get from an external and internal standpoint will multiply. So I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely. And that was so beautiful, Kevin. I am in complete alignment as far as that goes. And really, I mentioned it earlier, it goes back to the law of correspondence. So within, so without. And so when we can focus on cultivating the joy, the satisfaction, the aliveness, the freedom within ourselves, then injecting it or infusing it into other people's lives become a natural byproduct. And so, yes, we can do intentional things to encourage people to say nice things to each other, but really it is so much more powerful energetically and from a belief system standpoint when it comes from this place of truth and saying it from this genuine, authentic, just overflowing a type of place. But I definitely am a big proponent as far as just bringing joy wherever we go, whether it's training ourselves to do that or whatever measure it takes to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for asking. So the best way to get a hold of me, if you are, which I'm assuming if you're listening to Kevin's YouTube and podcast, you can check out Seeing Your Inner Brilliance on Apple, Spotify, that type of thing. And then I'm also on Instagram as well at Charlsey_Childers.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I have to tell you, as I said at the outset of our conversation, I think the work that you do is fabulous, bringing joy, excitement, and enthusiasm into the lives of people. I want to thank you for sharing this space of conversation with me today. I want to wish you a great weekend and much success in your current and future endeavors. And I want to thank you for being here this afternoon. It's most appreciated.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I fully receive and reciprocate that love. What you were doing is absolutely powerful. It is so impactful. I hope you have so much fun on your speaking engagement and know that you are just going to bring the light to the room and to those people's lives. So thank you so much for having me.